Hello, seekers. I am today with Eithiriel DeMere. Um, and this is like one of the most natural uh, recordings because we already talked a lot on Zoom, Eithiriel, and it's just now the only difference seems like I just clicked a button. And it's a bit more
Right,
structured,
right,
but we've done
right.
this for quite a few times. And we cover a lot of rabbit holes. So thank you for joining me.
Hell yeah.
uh, all right. So when I think of like how to introduce you, these things come to mind: language market fit, community management, and B2B SaaS. These are like the three
Yeah.
concepts that jump to my mind. The last one is the one that I don't really kind of relate much to because of like the business models and whatnot. But tell me, like, what would you add other than that, or how would you introduce
So
yourself?
those are aspects of my career. As a person, I'm I like to describe myself as a goth punk abolitionist anarchist.
Right,
So outside of that, I have different identities that I feel really are definitive of my morality and my core beliefs. And I also do a lot of mutual aid work.
right,
So that's a major part of my life as well. And, something that we connect on is I'm a word nerd.
right.
And I love physics. I love metaphysics and philosophy. And I'm always reading books. Um, I've always got to be reading something. I'm always making different playlists of music and like exploring podcasts. And right now, I'm trying to learn more history. And yeah, I'm rambling now, so I'll, I'll let you take back
That
over.
that's our style. That's our style. Uh, okay, okay. Oh God, the thing that's. I'm sorry if the internet is not too great today, but
That's okay.
okay, so speaking of the goth punk thing, tell me what do you wear the goth style because it aesthetically pleasing to you, or is there something else that satisfies you in adopting the style?
No, it's not just an aesthetic, it's a point of view about the world. And like even with like punk especially being like anti-fascist and like anti-Nazi and all of that, and like anti-corporation and capitalism. So it's not just an aesthetic for me, it's like a whole, again, it goes back into like my morality and like how I've come to view the world over time. You know, I'm 40 now, and in my 20s, I spent a lot of my early 20s being liberal and then slowly moving into like queer spaces. I mean, I've always been queer too, but like, I mean, moving more into queer spaces where I actually belong
Right,
instead of like more cishet spaces. And in those spaces there's more about like consent and boundaries and things like that. And like, so I came across more about like anarchism and so on, and like realized that that's like really where I belong. And like, um yeah, so I also have friends who are like, get rid of all the labels and just be a person too. So there's an argument to be made for that. But as far as like my mutual aid work is concerned, I've been able to find more people doing the kind of mutual aid work that I like to do. if I'm like leaning into these labels to find my people
Right.
who are getting that kind of work done, because otherwise it's hard to find each other, especially like a lot of like anarchists doing mutual aid, because they like to hide. They don't want anybody fucking with them. They just want to get things done. So sometimes it's really hard to find these people. But like if I put myself out there, which I try to be pretty high profile and put myself out there to be found, then like they can connect with me and we can collaborate and get some things done. Like right now in Puerto Rico, just got hit really hard, for example. And so I haven't had a chance to yet, but I'm going to figure out which mutual aid groups to work with there and maybe get them linked up with Distribute Aid, which is one of the main mutual aid groups that I work with. That's just an example, you know. So we try to do things like recovery efforts and like Distribute Aid, it's in the name. We try to
Right.
distribute aid. Like we had a lot of focus on like Lebanon, especially after the explosion and things like that.
Right. Right. Um, I'm curious if this is where you started having an interest in learning Arabic.
Arabic, I have always been interested in because I had a lot of conversations in person when I lived in Florida. I would go to parks, and a lot of people who were spending time in the park spoke Arabic, and they were Egyptian people and like other people, and I wanted to communicate better with them. I felt like our conversations were amazing, but like we definitely had some like language barriers there, and I really wanted to like deeply be able to like step more into that kind of like world of like culture and everything that I feel if I got more into, like it would open my worldview up even more. I just felt like I learned a lot from people that I met who were speaking Arabic, and I'm like, I need to go work on this.
Right. 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 Um, okay, so let's start with the standard questions that I like to ask people. So tell me something you looked for but couldn't find, or you found eventually, but it took you quite a while to find.
It took nearly my entire life to find self-love, and I didn't find that until I like truly self-love until I was about 37. Up until then, trauma had seriously caused me to question a lot of like my self-value and worth, despite years and years of therapy and all that. And what it took to get there was relentlessly meditating and reading just tons and tons of books on metaphysics and really pulling it all together. Like the meditative practices, though, really helped me connect with the universe in such a way that I realized that all of this like earth drama or whatever you want to call it just is not worth it. Like I'm connected to the universe. Like all of this here and like self-hatred and everything is just absolutely not worth it. There's just so much beyond all of this that um that I finally like leaned into all of that, and I'm like, you know what, like I'm just gonna love myself. And yeah, that took nearly my whole life so far, but I'm finally there.
Right, right. Uh, well, first of all, I'm happy that you've finally found it. Second of all, would how would you describe the effect of therapy on you? Did you find it helpful?
No, I found that, you know, a degree in psychology like you, um, and I'm very self-aware already, and there was only one therapist that I ever really found helpful, and unfortunately I didn't get to work with him for very long because I moved from Florida to Colorado, so that got disrupted because you can't over in the States, you at least pre-pandemic, you couldn't do like if they didn't have a license outside of that state, which I don't know how it works now if that's changed, then they can't practice outside of that state. So I couldn't keep that therapist, but for the most part, um, not really because I'm already self-aware, and I'm already somebody who's very open with my feelings and thoughts with people and reflective, and so you could make the argument that like a therapist is good to go to for venting and such, but like I already had a really good support network for that. And I do think that everybody should have therapy though, even though I'm saying this, maybe it helped me on a subconscious level, you know, but not in like tangible ways that I actually put forth and attribute to therapy,
Right.
honestly.
I'm not sure if we talked about this, but this is actually was kind of very similar to what I went through. Um, I felt that these modalities of one-on-one coaching or therapy and all of that stuff was less effective for me because I'm already someone who's very introspective.
Exactly.
Uh, and so I think the return on investment varies depending on the person's personality and nature. So lots of people would kind of benefit a lot because they naturally like they need someone to talk to them with them in order for them to crystallize their thoughts and whatnot. Um, so yeah. Um,
Yeah, it wasn't until I worked with him and a psychiatrist that because I'm polyamorous and queer in general, and so all of my therapists until them didn't get that, and they were queer people of color. So it was finally like somebody got my identity. So I think
right,
that's part of it too, is like I was working with people before them who just didn't get my identity despite being psychologists, despite
right.
being people who should be very aware of different identities. Um, it wasn't until I worked with people who were also living those times who really like really got me.
Right.
um, yeah.
Uh, okay, let's tell me something you change your mind about.
I feel like I change my mind all the time, and I feel like if I'm not changing my mind all the time, and I'm not a different person every 6 months, then I'm doing something wrong. Um, I especially keep changing my mind about where I'm living. Um, I'll go somewhere like Seattle and be like, oh, I'm gonna be here for like a while, and then I'll leave, and then I'll go. You know, right now I'm in Arizona, um, and I feel like I'm gonna stay here, but knowing me, I don't know, but the desert is amazing. This kind of desert, there's nothing else like it in the US. I mean, I've lived in other deserts, but this is totally different here. So it's very fascinating. There's very little light pollution out here. So I just got a telescope. It comes in today, and I'm really stoked about that. Like, I want to explore the desert. I, you know, learned that like, and this goes, this goes beyond location, like obviously it's a reflection of me. Some people have called me Nomad Nikki because my name used to be Nicole and he was my nickname. So like people would put me in their phone as Nomad Nikki. I like moving around, but then I'll think I'll stay somewhere and like I don't. I just don't.
Right. Okay, if you have the chance to facilitate a conversation between any two people in the world, who would you choose and what would you ask them?
Well, if he was still alive,
Maybe you have the option of a lawyer that.
I like Huey P. Newton, and Mariam Kaba, and Huey's, from the Black Panthers, and Mariam Kaba is like probably the leading abolitionist over here in the United States. And I would just love to know what their conversation would be like, because I find them both beyond inspirational. And like, I don't idolize people, but if I was to idolize two different people, they would definitely be in the top 5. Like Mariam Kaba changed the entire direction of my life, but she's a huge part of like why I decided and like that like abolition is a huge part of my identity years ago, is because she's just so, her morality is on point, and her work, she's just so incredible. I can't say enough amazing things about her, but yeah.
Can you tell just briefly for the people who are not, I'm not aware who are the Black Panthers.
Yeah, the Black Panthers brought about the civil rights movement over here in like the 60s.
Right.
And Huey was shot in Oakland, in California, unfortunately. And then you've got some people still alive that are still in prison. You've got some people that recently died off from it. And then you've got some more continuation of that organization a little bit. It was an incredible movement, and I've got friends who are in like I don't want to call it new wave, but like the continuation of it that's endorsed by some of the original members. And they did things like make sure that, they did a lot of mutual aid too, make sure that people have food and shelter and are taken care of. And they did rioting and like brought about a lot of change over here that was extremely important.
Okay. So tell me any specific questions that you'd ask them?
You know what? I like to leave things open-ended. I would just really, they both would know way more about me than all of these kinds of things. So I wouldn't want to limit their conversation by my questions. I would just want to hear what they have to say to each other, honestly, like unbounded.
Right. Okay.
I wouldn't feel fit as a moderator for them.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
All righty. So tell me about your ideal working partner. How are they similar or and different from you?
My ideal what?
Working partner?
Working what?
Partner.
Working partner?
Yes.
So like if I was co-working with somebody, like a
Yeah,
colleague,
yeah.
well, I'm pretty happy where I'm at right now at source.network. Everybody that I'm working with there is pretty much my ideal colleague so far. Some of them are also uh, anarchists, and they're brilliant and they're thinkers. They think a lot. Sometimes we end up in meetings where we're all thinking too much and we have to step back and and take a moment, and I'll call it out sometimes too, like, hey, we're overthinking this. They're funny. I mean, I feel extremely honored to be on this team that I recently joined, doing community, and I mean, I'm deeply impressed by their range of knowledge and also their morality as well. For me, a lot of that morality theme keeps coming up. For me, morality is a huge part of like my connection with anybody or my admiration of anybody, right? Like not like I have some perfect moral compass. I mean, everybody's morality is different. But a long time ago, I determined that morality and it is way more important to me than just like having common interests with somebody, because I can connect with people on something like, you know, our favorite books or music or whatever, but like, who are they as a person? Like, I want to know what they believe in and how they view the world, because if it's, you know, if they're like a Nazi, it doesn't matter if we like the same books or not, for example, like we're not going to get along.
Right,
So,
right.
yeah. Yeah.
Uh, okay, so choose someone you know very well, and then tell me something you recently discovered about them that you didn't know before.
Okay. Well, I know my friends extremely well. So that's a tough one because all of my close friends, I know them so well, unusually well. Um, let's see. I'm kind of at a loss on this one just because, like,
Yeah, that's one of the most difficult one.
no
Uh,
kidding.
yeah,
Because I'm always learning about them. Um, but I guess I'm just getting more nuance in the things I know about them. I'm very particular with who my close friends are and how well I know them, and yeah, I'm I'm actually not sure just because I already know them so well. I'm just adding nuance on top of it.
okay,
So
sure.
yeah,
If
I'm
some
actually at a loss there.
if something comes up, tell me.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, so I'm curious. This is not on the list, but I'm curious. Would you um, would you wear your goth punk clothes to like a business meeting or something like that?
Hell yeah.
And what was the has has it ever caused an issue or uh, yeah,
I don't work with people in which it would cause an issue. And if it would, then they're not my kind of people to work with. Um, in fact, there's this inside joke at my job that I'm at right now with the COO who creates meeting agendas for one of the recurring weekly meetings, that I'm supposed to do a 2-minute punk clip. Like, I guess like a punk performance. And it comes up every meeting, and it's like part 2 or 3 of the agenda. Um, and he's like, okay, 2-minute punk clip, and I'm like, no. And he's like, so it's just gonna keep coming up every week, I guess. And one of the guys there was like, you know, actually, the fact that they keep rejecting it is punk in itself. Like,
Right.
but no, I've always been myself. Like, you can't see it in this video probably, but I have like blue hair and like piercings and stuff. Like, I don't give a fuck.
Right,
Like, and
right, right.
like my skill and knowledge and experience and everything speaks for itself. And if my aesthetics or morality or whatever clashes with your corporate business, like answering to investors or whatever, then like I'm not the right person to be working with you, and vice versa.
Right.
You know, I'm
So,
not going to go into like an investor meeting like that, obviously. That's a whole different story. And by investors, what I mean is like over here in the US, we've got Silicon Valley, and it just kind of, you get stuck going into investors meetings and stuff like that. And they would definitely judge on that. And like, I'm not going to jeopardize companies over stakeholders like that, though.
right. Um, are people surprised when they kind of get to know you on a deeper level, their ideas of what a goth or punk person is kind of like shattered, or kind of like not exactly what they had in mind?
I think what they're more confused about is what anarchy means, because right there in the definition, it's sort of says like disarray and disorder and such, but like anarchy is actually extremely organized. I think that's the one that like really confuses people and just the most, when I start to explain that like, no, anarchy is like actually it can be collective grassroots movements with people coming together. It's very community oriented. Just because like we don't want the government controlling everything doesn't mean there isn't very strong community components to it. Like, we're very much more for community components and like local communities organizing than just like having the government. And that's a huge misunderstanding, I think. Like, people tend to think that it's just complete disorder and chaos, and that's just like not the case at all. I
All
mean,
right.
maybe we should change the name of it or something.
Right, 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 right. Um, tell me an action that you took based on research that you came across.
I feel like my psych degree subconsciously makes me take all kinds of actions all the time based on research that I read during it, and also like my studies in graduate school as well, and psych and anthropology and philosophy and such, like, and research around some of those topics. Maybe research around like racism and such, and like I feel like I've definitely improved a lot over the years in my own like racial biases, by reading more research about like how racism especially affects Black people in the United States, and try to be like a much better person and such around all of that. And but that's also got to be coupled with actually talking to people and listening to them, and like not just reading research, right? It's also about like real life people and listening to what they have to say, and like shutting up and like not speaking over people and such. So that's probably one of the, you know, number one things. And then I read a lot of research, obviously, around police violence, but that hasn't changed my behavior on anything other than like the fact that I continue to believe that like police are not great. So
Right, 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 right. Okay, so What would you do if you were handcuffed for a month?
Meditate.
Ooh. Yeah, that's very suitable. You'd meditate for a month.
Yeah, I mean, I want to meditate for a month anyway. I would love to go to like a Buddhist temple and just check out for like an entire month. And I was going to do that before, right as the pandemic hit. So right then, and just like all the temples and everything shut down, and I was like, I'm not going to go anyway, even if they were open. So yeah, I mean, it would actually be convenient if that happened, because I've been wanting to meditate for a month straight,
Right.
which I have before, just like not in a situation in which I was forced to,
You meditated for a month straight?
Yeah, like 3 months straight.
Wow. Okay, tell me what made you take. So did you know that you were staying for 3 months once you began?
No, I did that in my room.
Okay, but were you planning for like 3 months?
No, I just did it. I didn't plan it out. It's just something that I just did.
Wow. And you were
I
so
would
in the
just I would
zone.
go to sleep and I would wake up, and like I would eat when I needed to, and like all the other time I was awake, I meditated for like, yeah, 80 days straight.
Wow. How about like were people asking about you, calling you?
I mean,
Uh,
at the time I was in a polycule, so I lived in Colorado with two of my ex-girlfriends, and I just I wasn't really online as much at the time anyway. And they weren't worried about me. I mean, they knew where I was at and they were happy for me. So um no, I don't think so. Like I think everybody knew I was fine. Yeah.
wow. So how did it feel afterwards?
I mean, it played a major role in the self-love that I told you about, because like I had been working on that, but like that completely solidified it.
Okay. Wow. I'm still it's astounding. 3 months of meditation. Wow. I mean,
I
I
would
can
do
very
more, like if I could right now. I mean, I
I,
came down here and started meditating again. Um, but I have to kind of like work up to the skill that I was at. Like it took years to get to certain skill levels with it. Um, and I'm not quite where I was to where I could do it for 90 days again at the moment, but I want to get to that point.
I'm curious because you're a word nerd as well. Do you meditate on words?
I do when I'm playing Scrabble. Sometimes I will, or do you mean like affirmations, or just like, let me just go into what I was saying, I guess. Sometimes in Scrabble, I'll stare at a word until it's not a word anymore, if you mean that. But
You stare at
otherwise,
tell me more, tell me more. I'm intrigued.
you know how if you like look at a word long enough, it stops looking like a word that you know. It
Right.
starts looking
Yes.
weird,
A
like that.
hundred percent. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
like that. Like so, and
Okay.
you can't make that happen either. It's just one of those phenomenon that just happens, and you're like, man, that just doesn't look like a word anymore right now.
Right. Yes. Uh, I'm thinking as well because I underwent like a connected breathing session. So one of the things that, because I'm also a word nerd and relate a lot to like words, my experience was in addition to the tingling sensations, what like certain words would like emerge, keywords that are important for me. Mango is one of them.
uh,
Mangoes, all of that stuff.
like a cognitive map kind of thing, or something else.
What's a cognitive nap?
So in cognitive psych, it's kind of like that, where you have associations with different concepts, words, etc., and it
Right.
like
Yeah.
branches out.
Yeah. The scheme. Yeah.
Yeah.
Something along these lines. Um, so yeah, I was thinking is if you in your meditation, if certain like words appear to you, or because less, I mean, lots of people talk about images, but because I'm such, I'm very word oriented, it surfaces for me as
That's
words
really
sometimes.
interesting. Not necessarily. I mean, I did do affirmations on repeat. But and I know some people will stare at a candle flame and things like that. Like I can't, for some reason I can't meditate that way. Like I really have to check out. My version of checking out, like closing my eyes and everything. I find nature meditative, but yeah, I can't say like I would meditate on a word unless it was part of an affirmation, like
Right.
a series of words, I guess.
All right. So tell me what, think of, again, people close to you. Think of someone close to you. Do you have someone in mind?
Yeah.
What are some words that they often use that typically it's like very that person style?
Pulchritude, um,
What's the word?
pulchritudinous, um, sesquipedalian, um,
Can you type those words? Because I'm not sure like I can.
yeah, sure. Okay, we have a lot of inside jokes. Over the years, on
That's
words. We keep journals of words actually. And
so this is one of your friends?
yeah,
Okay.
I have about 4 really, really best friends, and
Yeah.
this is one of them. Um, he and I have spreadsheets and spreadsheets of words, and we are always sharing words and playing Scrabble and words with friends and such. Um,
Okay.
there's definitely an inside joke about pulchritude and like playing it all the way down the Scrabble board. And
So this
I learned
is,
that, yeah,
it means physical beauty. There.
yeah.
Okay. Very cool.
What a beautiful word too.
Sesquipedalian.
Yeah.
Sesquipedalian, which means by long words, long-winded.
And then,
Uh,
oh, here's another one, but this is a different friend. And I've used this one on a call with you before, but this is a totally different friend. But it's one of my favorites.
Hapax legomen, which means hapax legomenon means once within a context.
Yeah, so if you have a book,
Ah,
like the Bible,
right,
and
right,
there's
right, right,
a word that's only in it once in the whole,
right.
yeah.
Very cool. So this friend uses this word a lot, this expression a lot.
Well, there's 2 friends that come to mind for both of, like, all 3 of these words. But
Right.
I had, yeah.
You have a very highly intellectual group of circle, group of friends. If this is a word that they use often in their vocab, very cool.
I mean, we
So
have jokes. We're not like going around and colloquially talking to other people and using these words, right? Because that would be like alienating. So
Right.
it's just inside jokes and stuff. Like we don't go around like talking to other people that way. That would
Right.
that would be that wouldn't be cool.
What would be a word that you use often?
A word that I use often, um, innocuous. I use a lot of words often. So like that's like a hard question. Um, I feel like I do say innocuous a lot, but I picked it up from one of them because they
Okay.
were saying it a lot
Ooh.
colloquially, actually. Huh?
Yeah, very cool. It's interesting because um we both have an interest in words, and
Yeah.
you were telling me about how we talk to a lot of people and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
Sometimes a word for me is tied to a specific person because
Yeah.
I they either use it a lot or the first time I hear this word is through them. So like my
Yeah.
friend Claire uses the word glory a lot. Glory, so
Yeah.
it's like it's a Claire word for me, or um heebie-jeebies. This is the first time I
Yeah.
hear it. I hear it from Claire, so it's a heebie-jeebies is intrinsically tied to Claire
Yeah.
for me. Um, so yeah,
Yeah. We've got willy-nilly over
willy-nilly,
here.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
don't get willy-nilly. Like that one of the people from this that I was talking about really likes thinks that phrase is funny, so
I,
they'll
I
use it just to be funny.
I actually still remember this word is tied to a professor that I had in 2008. So I still remember the first time, or like this word is willy-nilly is associated to an American professor that I had. It's funny how things are kind of associated.
Yeah,
Um, so yeah.
yeah,
All right.
absolutely.
Um, let's talk about community a bit. So
Okay.
tell me some of the uh, online communities that excite you or you're a part of.
I spend a lot of time on Twitter and in the queer uh anarchist intersection of the two spaces on there, um, and learning a lot more about how to continue to organize more effective mutual aid and different blocks and such, and defense and things like that. And I started doing what's called Twitter Spaces, which you just go in and you open up the floor to you start a voice chat on there, and anybody can join. Not everybody can voice chat unless you add them to be a co-speaker. Um, and I started doing that a lot recently, and actually really getting to know my Twitter connections, which I have about like almost 70,000. So, but a lot of people joining my Twitter spaces lately have been other queer, like anarchists, and I'm just really fascinated by what they have to say during these just open-ended conversations that we're having on there. I've been learning a lot about different perspectives and of anarchy and like different books to read and like it's been really cool getting to know them beyond just text on my Twitter, and like actually getting to know them more as like people,
Mm.
um, and like they're coming to life more to me. And so now we have all kinds of like inside jokes and um, like there's people that go on there that impersonate like Trump and Jordan Peterson and Ben Shapiro and such, and it's hilarious.
Mm.
Absolutely. Just like,
Mhm.
yeah, that's one of the communities that I really deeply connect with on a very natural, like intrinsic kind of way. I'm sure you were asking more about like specific communities though, um, in which case, I have been a part of Product Hunt since its inception, and I'm still majorly connected in that community and product launches and such. I'm connected into our source.network community, which I find fascinating. Um, I have been more focused lately though on that Twitter community stuff when I was talking about like outside of my job, um, it really is still like a community to me, even though it's not like glued together necessarily like one. It still is one though. Like it doesn't have to have the confines or something, to hold it together. And that's kind of like how anarchy would work anyway.
Mm.
But yeah.
Right, right, right. So what are some kind of unusual events? Okay, let me try to. Okay, what would make you pay to join a community?
If I cared about what they were accomplishing, such as mutual aid, like what what's being accomplished organizationally, because a lot of communities have like an organization on the other side of them, whether that organization is something like a quote unquote nonprofit, or if it's a mutual aid, or if it's a corporation or a startup or whatever it is. There's usually something on the other side of the community. So like, where are those funds going? And if it's going to something that is helping other people, then I would definitely contribute.
Right. That's that's good. Um, are there anything that you'd like to see more of in online communities? Specific features or anything on your wish list in terms of online communities?
I would really like to see, um, so one of the problems with communities is they can start out with like friends and family, and a lot of people don't have, like, research indicates that especially white people in the US don't have very many Black friends or Native American friends and so on. So I would like to see people, especially white people who are starting communities, to reach outside of their immediate network of like friends and family, and to like bring other kinds of people into the community, and make it a really safe space. And if they don't have those friends, to make them in the first place to even do that, and not just create some diversity and inclusion initiative to come off as like ethically sound, but do it because you actually give a fuck.
Right, right. Um, I'm wondering, if you ever done some work on analyzing the data that is in those online communities. Say you have um, like a Slack channel. Uh, I'm thinking social listening. Have you ever worked with social listening on terms of the groups that you're part of?
Yeah, and by the way, I'm not trying to separate myself from white people, because obviously I am one, so I just want to put that in there.
Sure.
um I've done a lot of social listening, but like, that's just a form of qualitative data. when you ask about data, there's all kinds of data that you can look at. Social listening is a good form of qualitative data to know where the market is at, though, especially when it comes to how people feel about your community, how people feel about competitor communities.
Eithiriel, just a sec.
Yeah. Okay.
Just a sec. I'm just. Okay.
You switched rooms.
I'm just recording the. Just a sec.
Yeah. Recording and pause the recording and stop. Yeah, it's recording. Okay, go ahead. Sorry, we're talking about social listening.
Yeah, you mentioned data. There's all kinds of data, and social listening is just one form of qualitative data. And it can be used to have an idea about where the market is at. So how people feel about a certain movement, to get an understanding of the language that people are using around a product, a brand, movement, idea, whatever it might be that you're trying to capture qualitative data around. And it can give you an idea of also if you're capturing social listening about your own brand or your competitors' brands or whatever. It can do two things: is give you language to use back in your community to connect further with those community members, or to really understand like how they feel about something in the market, which it like brings in like language market fit, right? Because if you take those two and you intersect them, that's kind of what you end up with. But language market fit is so much more than just social listening. That's just one tool that you can use to kind of tap into different language.
What are your favorite tools for language market fit?
So actually having conversations with people.
Okay.
So getting in a video chat like this and talking to a community member and asking them how they feel, not just, you know, a series of questions around like, what features do you like or whatever, but more like, how does the community make you feel? What emotions do they feel around how the community's making them feel, how community members are making them feel, how moderators make them feel, how guidelines make them feel, how interacting makes them feel, just like capturing all of their emotions around that. And then, you know, it's not my favorite, but you've got like keyword research. And I'd say it's not my favorite because I did SEO forever and I'm like burnt out on it. But you've got that. You've got like industry reports from like McKinsey and Forrester and such. You've got like support tickets you can look at, or like chat, you know, like your live chat information that you can look at, like you can look at like emails, any kind of correspondence whatsoever with community members. There's qualitative data there. You can look at how they reviewed your product on something like G2. You can look at how they reviewed competitor products on there, like Capterra and so on, and like capture the feeling and the language that they're using on across these different mediums, I guess you could say. You could look at like their blogs, like how they're writing about your brand or somebody else's brand, or just like a concept, like anywhere that like somebody's communicating is like a tool.
So what are some kind of insights that jump out to you when you think of the work that you've done with the language market fit? Specific cases, specific insights that you acquired only after doing the actual language market fit work.
Definitely that there's a few things. One is when you do have a conversation like this, you know, a video chat, for example, with a community member or an ideal customer, and you have questions for them, just let them answer the questions and let there be time in which silence can fall. Because if you keep just running through a series of questions, you could end up interrupting them sharing more of their thoughts, and you lose a wealth of information that way. So you have to be patient in your conversations with people, and just like let them speak and not interrupt them whatsoever. And the other one really does go back to emotions and deeply understanding like how people are feeling, because like a lot of, and I kind of intrinsically knew these things, but like I've seen a lot of community managers who just go through the motions, like, oh, I'm just gonna post like share Saturday, or like talk about it Tuesday or whatever, and it's just like a bureaucratic thing for them to do, but they aren't putting emotions into it. So like you've got your community members putting emotions, but like I've seen a lot of community managers fall flat without putting their emotions back into it. And if you don't do that, and you're just doing this formulaic approach, like best practices, this is what I read to do, then you're not going to connect as a community manager either. You're not going to be a good community manager, like unless you're also emotional along with your community. You've got to have some kind of like personality in there that's outside of being formulaic best practices. And like there's some community managers, I'm not sure how they've gotten as far as they have, and I know that might sound a little arrogant and conceited, but like being a community manager takes like some kind of actual passion and like giving a fuck about your community and the people in it, rather than just like applying these best practices.
Right. I'm thinking in terms of like specific case studies
Yeah.
with like a client who, after you did the language market fit with them, they were surprised to know something about the product or the audience.
Okay. Yeah. So I've helped. There was a SaaS business that I helped with language market fit at the end of last year, and they didn't know at all to talk to their customers. And I mean, they knew to talk to their customers, but they didn't know to take the language their customers were using and then apply it back to the copy and the value proposition and everything on their website and all their communication and their sales deck and everything. Like they had a wealth of recordings, YouTube recordings with testimonials, and they had a wealth of reviews on G2 and Capterra and everything. And they had a wealth of data and like Gong and other places where they were capturing conversations with customers, but they had no idea to take that language and like pull it apart and find really interesting ways that the customer was talking that they could take and apply back to their own marketing and sales materials.
Okay, so if somebody wants to delve deeper into language market fit, are there any books or resources that you would recommend?
You and I are going to write those.
Okay. It's interesting because I was like thinking like I want to read to delve deeper into them, but there isn't many.
No, you got like a value proposition design book, but like, no, that's for you and I to write. So we're going to do that.
Right. Stay tuned, people.
Yeah.
Have you ever came across language market fit for languages other than English?
I wish I could say that, but like I'm an ignorant American, so like
it's something that kind of like makes me like I feel it's such a blue ocean that I want to use somehow. Like I want to use my knowledge of Arabic, especially like, there's a huge number of people who use this language. But
it's like the fifth most spoken language in the world.
Yeah. So, but I'm thinking like, okay, but how do we actually position it? How do we, use the knowledge that has been accumulated over in terms of, social listening and search listening in the Western world, and how can we take that into to Arabic content?
Right. That's something we should definitely talk about.
Right, that would be the second edition of the book.
Yeah, especially since I'm also interested in Arabic. I mean,
yes,
it checks out.
Right. Let's play a word association.
Okay.
So I'm gonna say a word, and then you're gonna say a word. Just whatever comes to your mind. It's an aimless exercise, but I like it. Right. Paradox.
Physics.
Infinity.
Zero.
Sum.
Mathematics.
Eloquent.
What'd you say?
Eloquent.
Eloquent. Fancy. Dapper.
No, the thing is, when you said fancy, the first thing comes to mind, fancy schmancy. Schmancy.
Mamby-pamby.
Schmancy.
Mamby-pamby.
Bambi.
A doe is a female deer. Sound of music. Austria?
Yeah.
Classical music.
Beethoven.
Mozart.
Van Gogh.
Oh gosh, Starry Night, and I mean he's the one that got me into art in the first place.
Right.
I don't know if I told you this, but like I won the entire state of Florida in Quiz Bowl in art knowledge at one point in the 90s.
Say that again?
Yeah. So in the 90s, I went through a Quiz Bowl like challenge through the entire state of Florida, and I won the entire state of Florida in art knowledge, and like I was just in love with art.
Wow.
Because like I was inspired as a preteen by Van Gogh's Starry Night, and it just veered from there.
Okay, very cool. Very
And I won a scholarship for it.
wow, very cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's play another game that is the what's the word? The unassociation word, which is my friend Claire also taught me. So basically, I say a word and then you try your hardest to say something that's not related to the word I'm saying.
Sure.
Okay. Art.
I mean, that's a really hard one. Because everything I can think of is related to art.
Okay.
Religion.
Soda.
Water.
Water is very related to, is extremely
I
related
know.
to.
I know. A brick, I guess, like solid.
Metamorphosis.
Static. Unchanging.
That's it's very related, but okay, fine.
No, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Okay, I'm getting the game now. I get it now.
Okay.
Because it's even if it's an opposite, it's still related.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, I get it now. Okay, gotcha.
So clock.
Asher.
Ashtray.
What did you say?
I don't know. I didn't hear that. Did you say ashtray?
No, I said I said Escher, but it's still related. This is a hard game.
What's an
I like
Escher?
this a lot. Escher is that artist with the like stairs going all the way around and everything.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So
It's still related. This is a hard game because I
you
could
have
just
to,
I could just throw nonsense out there.
but
But like,
it shows you how much the brain is interconnected, like how much
yeah,
like it shows you how when once I throw a word, it influences your brain and it's hard not to,
yeah,
to get to,
even, yeah, because like even an antonym is still related. So it took me a minute to, yeah.
Okay. Jelly beans.
Sweater.
That's good. That's good. Turquoise.
Gym equipment.
Pear.
Sound bites.
This.
Coffee cup.
Rotterdam.
What was that?
Rotterdam. Not sure
Okay.
Makeup artist.
What?
Makeup artist.
I said makeup brush, but
Makeup
makeup
brush.
artist works.
Makeup brush. Okay. Soliloquy.
Oh, that's a really pretty word.
Yeah, it is.
Carpentry.
Ribosome.
Pool table.
Okay. I think we'll end it here because there's no end. There's no end to this game.
Yeah.
How did it feel? How did it feel? What were your thoughts, I guess?
It's very difficult to get away from associating whether it's synonyms or antonyms. Because and like when you think something's unrelated, it still could be. You could
Right.
still make an argument that it is.
Right.
Like,
And on a subconscious level, maybe there's no way to escape the fact that the word that's out through somehow led to
yeah,
the other word emerging.
right.
What are some of your favorite foreign words or non-English words, let's say?
Yeah. I really like, which this is probably a lot of people's go-to. The word butterfly in different languages. Like, it just, I saw it in a Reddit thread once, which it's just so pretty. I mean, there's like I just pulled it up on blogs, like it's a thing. I wish I could find like a good list of them. I'm not even gonna try to pronounce all of them. But I mean, like a lot of like English takes from different languages anyway. And then like is it Greek or Latin? Yeah. Like words having to do with like celestial objects and stuff coming out of like Greek and Latin and everything is like pretty interesting and beautiful.
Right. Okay, so I'm gonna ask you the last question, and then you ask me a question. So the last question is, how are we similar and different?
I think we are similar in that we both listen to what the other has to say very intently, and different in that I mean, I'm still getting to know you, so I could I could take a guess, I suppose.
Yeah, you can speculate.
Yeah. We might have different approaches to like our family lives, because I'm pretty disconnected from mine, and I think you're pretty close to yours. So yeah, I would
That
say
is
that's probably, yeah. But
That
mine is really chaotic, and like it's a good thing I'm not connected with them
right.
very much.
I mean, mine is
So
chaotic as well, but well,
probably in a different way.
in a different way, yeah.
Yeah.
But you're right on. Like I have very strong
Yeah.
relationships with my family. I spend a lot of time with my family, whether face to
Yeah.
face or online. Or like right now, I'm staying with in Egypt. I've been for like 4 years moving from one family member to another. Right now, if you like the woman
Yeah.
who was walking beside before this was my aunt.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a good speculation.
Hey.
Yeah.
That was hard, actually.
Yeah, but good answer. That's actually, I think, one of the best answers that I got to the question of how are we different.
That's
Um,
awesome.
how? Okay, so now you ask me a question.
Yeah. So I saw that you do hiking. What was like your most memorable hiking experience?
Mm.
In terms of like how it made you feel?
So actually, this one comes to mind. A hiking experience with, at that time, this person I knew kind of not too well, a bit, and then he introduced me to two other friends, and through this, and one of the friends, her sister as well, and through this trip, uh, I I also like got to know them through asking questions. And I got kind of like positive feedback that people that they kind of enjoyed my way of communicating with them.
Yep.
So it was first of all, it ended in like creating really strong friendships, and then it kind of like gave me a nudge, um, or made me appreciate more the asking questions, especially random or weird questions, to get to know people. And
Yep.
it was like one of the motivators for me to do this podcast. So yeah, that was that's the hike I was doing.
Yeah. I do the same. I've been doing that just for a long time, and in all kinds of different scenarios. So I highly relate to what you're saying.
Yeah,
I find that like people don't get asked questions a lot by other people. And I tend to hang out with people and ask a lot of questions, and it facilitates a lot of conversations. And um, yeah, it's just, I think in college, I took a communication class, and that was one of the, and I had already been asking questions, but like, that was the main takeaway from that class, is that if a conversation ever stops, or you continue it by asking questions. You can
right,
always continue a conversation with questions.
right.
And like that was seriously it solidified that for me.
Yeah, 100%. Um, okay, so thank you very much, Eithiriel.
Thank you
Uh,
for having me.
I'm glad that we talked again. And yeah, I'm gonna stop this